Hey everybody, how are you? Welcome to today's podcast. Welcome to the show. I am so excited to have you all today. We are about to kick things off. I hope you enjoyed it. Had a great week. This Friday, it's 3:00. It's coffee, tea, and you and me time. And I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here to have an opportunity to enjoy and have fun with us. And we're gonna really have a good time today. Today's show is going to be super special. Today, we're talking about commitment. We're finishing up the second phase of what we started talking about last week, which is, the art and science of commitment. What do you need to know? What do you need to do? How do you enjoy it? When is the most appropriate things for you to be thinking about when it comes to commitment? This word is big, right? Those of us who have grown up in the world, we've all taken pledges and oaths. I remember doing the Boy Scout oath, right? I remember doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I remember signing on to, my first, commitment letter of service and all that kind of stuff for the military. It's all important stuff. Learning how to understand commitment, especially as we begin to move into Independence Day. As we begin to celebrate our independence as a nation here in the Washington metropolitan area and in the United States of America, what are we doing? What do we mean when we say commitment? How do we use this tool? How do we use this language today in today's world? And that's what we're going to discuss today. We're going to have a pretty good discussion. If you haven't gotten a sort of a taste in your mouth for it, go back and watch last week's show. Go back and watch it on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. And I promise you, there's plenty of free downloads, plenty of free information that you can pull from it. And I think you're going to really, really enjoy it. I see some of my good friends are out in the commercial audience. Don't forget, guys, you know what to do. If you're out there, let us know where you are, what's the name of your business, anything that you can put in the chat that's going to drive more energy and more opportunity to you. Please do so. If you come up with some ideas along the way that you want to share, that you want to participate in, do that too. Guys, we had a great conversation this week at the Roundtable, which is another organization that I participate in and I'm a co-founder of. And one of our organizational principles is really exciting to me, and it's really about collaboration. And we find that people who know how to collaborate well together are so much happier than those who try to do everything alone, those who try to go it by themselves. So 3 core principles at the Roundtable, and those 3 core principles are collaboration, encouragement, and communication. Now, there's a reason why we have those 3 principles, because we found that organizations that function around and deliver on the power of these 3 principles are successful organizations. They're thriving organizations. And yes, they are happy organizations in which their members and their friends are satisfied. Think about that for a second. What do you belong to, and what do you do? What do you participate in on a regular, consistent basis that gives you satisfaction? And why does that work so well? I would submit to you that in the Roundtable, our members are satisfied largely because every single one of us, everybody who's participating, is committed to those 3 core principles. We are committed, which means everything we want to do, all the energy, all the focus, everything we do is reflected around our understanding and our expectations around those core principles and how we're going to execute and deliver on those core principles: encouragement, collaboration, and communication. And we find that when we can do those well, then we can have a great working relationship. We can do well together. If you look at Coach Powell Training and Development, my coaching practice, I'm committed to 3 core principles. The 3 core principles we focus on in our training and development processes, in all of our coaching processes, are simple. It's about energy. It's about focus. And finally, it's about performance. I teach all my clients, all my customers, everybody I work with, and all the tools that I create, everything that I create is all about maximizing and helping people understand how they can get more and be more energetic, how they can find more opportunities to focus, how can they generate higher and higher levels of performance from themselves and others? How do they empower the world to have more energy, more focus, and higher performance? That's what Coach Powell Training and Development is all about. So everything we create, everything we do, everything we speak about, everything is infused with those understandings. We're committed. If I do something, if I say something, if I engage in something, if I empower or energize something that doesn't have to do with delivering more energy, creating more focus, generating higher levels of performance, then it's outside of the scope of what we want the vision of our organization to be. It's outside of the potential that we believe we have to move things forward. And so the skills, right, the talent, everything that we have to generate or create in order to make those things reality become important. They become vital. Everything you need to do. So this is why when we're talking about today, we're going to talk about commitment. We're going to talk about commitment to values. What are your core values? If you have some core values and you want to share them with the rest of us, do me a favor, type them in the chat. When's the last time you actually thought about your core values? When's the last time you actually thought about how they live in your life and how they benefit you and how they benefit others? On a regular, consistent basis, I review my 6 core values, and I incorporate those core values into what I like to call statements of my reality, right? These are my proclamation statements. These are the things that I'm willing to go to the mat to defend, right? And I'll do it in a way that's meaningful. And if you're interested, I will share those core values with you a little later on in today's talk about and how they work in my life. But I think it's important to know as we talk about commitment, you begin to think through what it is that you are committed to, and what does that commitment drive you to, and what does that commitment help you with? Because when you can come up with those ideas, then you can generate a superior amount of opportunity, amount of training, amount of connection. It's just endless what can happen when you focus on not just committing, but increasing and deepening the level of commitment that you make on anything that you want to be, do, or have. Your commitment to achieve, your commitment to drive, your commitment to uncover, your commitment to learn, your commitment to listen, your commitment, and everything is about that. The more you commit, the more you find that you will increase your capacity for everything. Now, it's very hard to increase your capacity to learn, your capacity to grow, your capacity to generate opportunities or to do things if you cannot commit. So what are some of the things that keep us from making the commitments that we know we have to make to move us forward? Now, when I created TrueVOICE, I immediately began to understand that there are several things that move people out of commitment or help make it so it's difficult, maybe even impossible for people to commit. What do you think those things are? Put it in the chat. Where do you think people fall down on commitment? You think about it. Think about your past. We've all done this. Nobody is free from having failures to commit, or inabilities to commit, or obstacles to their commitment? What has caused you not to be able to commit in the past? What's caused you not to be able to give all your focus, all your energy, all your clarity to an endeavor that's important to you, that's vital to you? I know it's happened to you. It's happened to me. There are things that I can't commit to sometimes because even though I think I might need to commit to it, I'm not quite sure because I'm ignorant, right? I don't have all the information. I don't have all that I need to have in order to fully embrace the commitment, right? I love that comment, Andrew. Thank you so very much. Andrew, tell us where you're coming from, by the way. Tell us, how you found us, anything you want to tell us about you, your business. That's always important. But I love this comment. I'm going to post it really quickly for everybody else to see. Andrew says, if the commitment is prolonged and there isn't tangible progress that you can observe, that's one of the things that will make you reduce your level of commitment. And he is so true. He is so right about that. Sometimes we're committing to something that we expect to see the short-term result from, but that result is not coming. It doesn't seem to be forthcoming, and it makes us doubt. It makes us fearful, and it makes us sometimes even in a situation where we might assess blame or shame. In a situation, we may blame ourselves, or we may try to shame somebody else, or blame somebody else, or shame ourselves. Right? That happens when we feel like the things we commit to don't seem to be good for us, don't seem to be right for us, don't seem to be working in the short term. And sometimes what we have to commit to is patience. Sometimes what we have to commit to is a deeper level of learning, so that so that when we engage or re-engage, right, we know how to do it better. We know how to do it in a more disciplined, more focused kind of way. And that says there's other obligations, right? And time management and thinking we can do it all. You hit it right on the head, Annette. That is so true about commitment. How many times have, people make promises to you, right? And you could tell in the moment that they made the promise that they wanted to do it. They were actually committed to it. But what tends to happen is we overpromise and then underdeliver. And that means we set up an expectation that people are going to receive something from us. And then when they receive it, it's not as to the level of expectation. And so therefore, what has to happen simultaneously is disappointment. Nobody commits to disappointing you, right? They committed to doing something they were going to do for you, and they may have dropped the ball because of some of these other things that Annette talks about. Maybe they don't know how to manage their time well. Maybe they made a big mistake in terms of they bit off a little bit more than they could chew. They made a promise that they now can't deliver on, and for whatever reason, and it doesn't mean that reason isn't valid, but it does mean that there's an expectation that has been set and then not delivered. And so there has to be disappointment. What do you do with that? What do you do when you know that you're going to disappoint? How do you feel? I will promise you this. If you are a person that is in the habit of making commitments and then not following up and actually having those commitments happen, it's literally impossible for you to feel good about yourself. Because what happens, it chips away at your integrity. If over time, you know that you're not going to do the things you promised to do. In fact, everybody around you know that you're not going to do the things that you promised to do. And so when you're trying to change your spots, so to speak, and you're trying to really, really ramp up your level and your ability to make commitments, and to honor your commitments, because you want to be a person of integrity. You want to be a person that's trustworthy. You want to be a person that somebody can count on. What tends to happen is the people around you who you've already damaged, right, by not setting and honoring your commitments, right? Those people now don't have a lot of hope or faith in you. In fact, they may not support you in your next endeavor, and they may not support you in the next thing that you're doing because you've made promises that you haven't delivered on. You've made commitments that you haven't honored. That's the dangerous side of commitment. But I don't want to talk to you too much about the dangerous side of commitment, because I want to talk to you a little bit. I did a lot of this last week, but I want to talk to you a little bit about the positive side of commitment. What do you think happens when people are used to delivering on their commitments, used to making promises and then delivering on the promise? What do you think happens to their character? What do you think happens to their self-efficacy and their ability to think for themselves and do for themselves? What do you think happens to them? I'll tell you, commitment, like every other emotional or social muscle, grows with your strengthening, right? How do you strengthen your commitment, right? You get more information, you get better guidance, you follow a discipline, you practice, you rehearse, you strategize, you create pathways that will help you make that commitment deeper and deeper and deeper. My wife and our relationship, and our commitment to our marriage, we have something called no-fly zones, right? There are activities that we know that we shouldn't participate in. And in participating in those activities might make it difficult to continue to commit to our marriage. Like flirting with other people might be a bad idea, because what happens if they flirt back? Right? What happens if there's a mutual attraction that wasn't even initiated until somebody decided they were going to participate in that kind of practice on purpose, right? So, because you can control who you flirt with, right? You can control how you do that. So for us in my marriage, that's a no-fly zone. We don't flirt with other people. Not even in a friendly, cute kind of, way where people, and I know people would say, oh, it's just harmful, it's safe, it's just trying to be, exciting and attractive and interesting and da 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 da. So I'm just flirting. It this really doesn't mean anything. Well, then again, there are people who would receive that action as more than you intended it to be. And so in flirting, you might be unconsciously making a promise that you're not going to deliver on, creating, therefore, disappointment. And you know what happens when people feel disappointed over and over and over and over and over again, right? The universe is full of that. The world is full of that. People are disappointed all the time. And when people are getting used to being disappointed because people don't seem to honor their commitments and people don't seem to hold up to the promises that they make, then it's very easy to get a little jaded, to lose hope, to lose faith. It's easier to become depressed. It's easier to create anxiety. It's easier to, forget that there's a positive side to this commitment thing. Because when you're able to be a person, and I'm going to say a person of maximum integrity, right? This means that you know how to make and keep promises, first to yourself and then to others. If you're a person of integrity, you have enough self-respect, and I'm going to define that in just a second. You have enough self-respect, meaning you hold yourself in high enough regard. You hold yourself as a special person in whatever category or area of expertise or talent or wisdom that you may have, so much so that you look forward to honoring your commitments in that space. I love coaching. I love coaching so much. I study it. I think about it all the time. I work with hundreds of people all the time. I can't wait to get the next crop of new potential partners. I don't call my coaching clients necessarily. I call them partners, because we're working with one another. We're collaborating. We're working together to accomplish something great. Something that both of us can be proud of, but something that elevates, by combining our strengths in the relationship. We're able to move the needle forward, move the person forward, help them grow. Again, deeper, higher, maximum levels of energy, performance, and what was that? I forgot the third one. It's right there in my own energy and focus. Right. So it's very, very important. When you can know what you're committed to, know what everybody around you should be committed to, know what your mission is, and how that commitment is exercised in what you do, you can speak to it to other people. You can share it with other people. Other people are going to go excited. They're going to go, how do you do that? Giving an example, people ask me all the time, well, why should I work with you? Well, the benefits of working with me are this: guaranteed 100% money back guarantee. You're going to have more energy. You're going to have more focus, and you're going to perform at a level that you've never thought you could perform. If that's what you want, I'm the person to work with. I can prove it, but first we have to establish: do you want that? Do you want more energy? Do you want more focus? Do you want higher performance? What could you do if you had it? Because I'm going to ask you to answer those questions. What could you be, do, or have in 4 months if you had more energy, more focus, and more performance than you could before then? Because I guarantee you, I got a program that's going to get you there. I'm willing to stand behind it. I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is, so to speak. And I know it's worked because it's worked for thousands of entrepreneurs and business professionals before you. Now, those are big, bold statements I just made. Those are big, bold promises that I just made. I could not make those promises and know that I could live up to those promises if I couldn't prove it. But I can prove it. And so why shouldn't I make the promise? Why shouldn't I deliver the benefits? You see, because commitment has allowed me to create enough energy around the promises that I just made to know, and I have enough integrity that I know I could pull it off. I know that I could do it. And I know that the people that I choose to work with me will be phenomenally successful. Because it's not just about me. It's about honoring the commitment. It's about making the promise. So if you guys are familiar with, and I downloaded the document again that we were going from for last week. I mentioned last week the key emphasis that commitment brings, right? Key core ideas, right? Commitment. If you're able to generate enough commitment towards anything, whether it's being a better father, a better husband, better mother, a better entrepreneur, a better business leader, you're going to generate more energy, more clarity, and more focus. Guaranteed. Because you know what you're committed to. And yes, that does mean that you're not going to be doing some other things. You're not going to be thinking about some other things. You're not going to be driving effort towards some other things because you're committed to something that's important, something that's meaningful, something that drives relevance and significance to your life and to your business. So you have to figure out what those things are. What are the things that you need to commit to? And what's standing in the way of those commitments? Because when you do this well, you obviously always, 100% of the time, will always have more energy, more clarity, and more focus around the thing that you're committed to. Guaranteed. That's on page 2 of the document that I shared with you all in the chat. So if you don't see it on LinkedIn or Facebook, just give it a minute because it'll pop up in the chat. But see, I wanted to talk to you about this because as I began to study what commitment was all about, I asked myself the question: what if people were committed to something like, I don't know, happiness. If you were committed to happiness, what would have to happen? What would you have to do? What would you have to understand to truly be happy? And let me preface this with some studies, right? Recent social and psychological studies are coming back clear as we begin to study the mind, and we begin to study how the mind works, and we begin to study over history, over time, how people generate joy, right? We've understood prior to recent times that if you somehow could have pleasure and meaning in your life, you got a shot at happiness. We now know, I mean, philosophers like Aristotle and Socrates and the great thinkers have always said, it's the hedonistic things, right, that make you happy. It's the eudaimonic things that make you happy. These are the things that are going to go back to ancient philosophy and what we were talking about, even in the Bible, right? We're talking about the same things, pleasure and meaning, pleasure and meaning. What we've recently discovered, that you can have pleasure and meaning, you can have those things all by yourself, but you won't be happy. Because what you need is engagement. You need to be immersed in a system, in an institution, with people that also is a part of driving that happiness. And so I created a program. I called it the three faces of joy. And you can't have this joy, especially in a sustainable way, if you don't understand how to create synergy around these three key ideas: pleasure, meaning, and engagement. If you could create anything that's going to be happy, and happy is important because we now know that happiness comes before success, not after. Let me say that again. Happiness comes before success, not after. Now, you can have achievements and successes in the short term and not be happy. But if you want to have long-term sustainable success, you must first master happiness. Don't get it twisted. Don't let people think that Marvin said something else. Studies are in, the links are in the study manual that I share with you guys online. Happiness is a precursor to success. It's not a result of success. What we think about when it comes to pleasure is we think about, how do we feel satisfaction? How do we feel enjoyment? How does it make us feel? How good does it make us feel? That's important for us to really wrap your mind around, because you could be so into pleasure that you lose focus on a lot of other stuff. And so there are guilty pleasures, right? There are dangerous pleasures. There are pleasures that can make you fall off the path towards whatever you think greatness or meaning or possibilities are, and you get stuck in that. Those things become addictive. Those kinds of pleasures become addictive, and it can be almost anything: food, sex, of course, drugs and alcohol. But anything can be addictive if it causes you so much pleasure that you can run away and escape in it all the time and not come out of it, right? If you need more and more and more of it to satisfy you, that's an addiction that you have. If you can't not do it, that's an addiction. You might want to think about that. But now, I say that there's not that pleasure is bad, but pleasure gets a bad rap because pleasure without the other two parts that we're talking about for happiness ends up creating a negative result, in that you don't focus on the things you should be focusing on when you're supposed to be focused on them. You don't do the things that you promise that you're going to do. People can't count on you. You're not a person of integrity. You have no honor. All of it just falls apart when you seek only pleasure, right? So you can't just seek only pleasure, but you have to understand what pleasure does, what pleasure is. Pleasure is about joy. It's about satisfaction. And it's something that if you know how to generate for yourself, you don't have to seek it in negative ways. You can seek it in positive ways. You can monitor and meter it so that it creates more energy for you, right? Meaning is the next part of the commitment to happiness that you might want to think about. Do you have purpose? Do you have significance? Do you have an assigned role or function? If you find that you're generating activities and you're participating in activities where there's purpose, where there's significance, where you're doing the things that you're expected to do because of your role or an assignment, then you have meaning. So that thing has meaning. Meaning answers the questions. Why do I do it? Why do I want to do it? Why do I need to do it? Why is it important to do? Anytime you can answer questions about that, you've come up with meaning. And if you can combine meaning with pleasure, you're well on the way to something great. The icing on the cake is absolutely this. It's engagement. The action of participating or being involved or associating is so necessary in the human condition. There is nothing we could learn, nothing we could do, nothing we could become without engagement. I was just talking to my favorite person, my daughter, Kayla Powell, earlier today. We were talking about the things that she needed to do in order to move next to the next level in her career or next level in her life. She said, well, Dad, what I need is the right information and the right guidance. I said, well, how do you get that? Of course, I knew the answer, but the question is, how do you get it? Well, you have to have deeper levels of engagement with people who have the information and the proper guidance. And so you have to look at the world, the universe, and ask yourself, and you have to do it too. I have to do it. Everybody has to do it consistently all the time. Who has the information that I need for me to feel comfortable, knowing that I can commit to something and know that it's going to be able to happen? What guidance can I receive that's going to make me feel comfortable, give me the confidence that I need to pursue something, even if I don't know the answer all the way? You see, with the information, they say knowledge is power, right? With the information, you can get somewhere, and the proper guidance, you can get somewhere. Without the both, what are you left with? You're left with no good direction. You're left with ignorance. How could you be comfortable with that? Impossible, right? And so when you think about it, looking for happiness means you must understand and figure out the synergy between pleasure, meaning, and engagement, but you have to know how to get that information about what that's all about. That means you got to explore. You got to have that engagement piece. You got to really get there. Because if you don't engage with others, I don't care if it's through books, lectures, tapes, personal relationships. I prefer personal relationships, but you need them all, right? If you can't engage, you're not going to find meaning. You're not going to find the kind of pleasure. You're not going to find that synergy to pull it all together. So when you think about commitment, I want you to think about those things. I want you to think about what they mean to you and why they mean what they mean. In the document, I have 11 laws of leadership commitment. And these are the rules that I believe that leaders need to engage in order to help themselves and help others not just perform better, but find happiness. So I'm just going to read them off to you, and I'm going to key in on one or two of them that I think is critically important. The first of the 11 laws is doubt removal. Anything you could do to empower yourself, to remove doubt and inspire hope is going to help you drive commitment within yourself and your teams. So just get the doubts out the way right out the back. I always think that's very important. Number two is practice being your unconditional best without excuse, without any type of, hesitation. Be your best self in every moment that you can, because you're in control of that. You get to decide. You get to choose, right? You have to be courageous, though, to do that, because circumstances might challenge you. It might get in your way. It might make you feel a little differently. But you have to choose to be your best on a regular, consistent basis. If you can do that, the more you practice it, the better you're going to get. You're going to become at it, and the more people are going to be able to trust you for whatever it is that you do, because they're going to see your best coming through. They're going to know that you're putting your best foot forward always, right? Number 3, promise first. Don't be afraid to make promises. I think that a lot of times we don't make commitments because we're afraid that we're not going to be able to deliver. Of course, be smart about the commitments that you make, but deliver on the commitments that you make. I'm not saying don't shy away from opportunities because you're afraid, or because you're worried about somebody blaming you, or somebody shunning you, or somebody not paying attention to you, whatever it is that you're concerned about when it comes to that. Don't let that stop you from making the commitments that you need to make in order to achieve meaning, relevance, and significance. And do it first. Be bold. Make the commitment. Make the promise. Number 4, practice we win. I flat out refuse to work with somebody who expects that in that relationship, either I'm going to lose or they're going to lose. We don't do losing. We only do winning collaboratively. And if that's an honor, that's the deliberate process that I learned from Dr. Covey. Think win-win. Very important, because if you can't in any moment with the person that you have to work with, or going to work with, or want to work with, think about how we're both going to win, then you're not helping elevate the relationship to its maximum potential. And when you can elevate a relationship to its maximum potential, stand back, baby. That is going to be a wonderful, things are going to be amazing. It's going to wow you both, but you got to be willing to commit. You got to be willing to bring your A game, and both of you have to be willing to bring your A game and commit to both winning. Whatever winning is, however winning looks like, talk about it, think about it. Bring whatever resources that you have to bring to the table so that you can agree. This is what we think that win-win could be here. And then you go for it, right? Number 5, practice reciprocal devotion. When you're in a leadership position, you have to be devoted to your people as much as you want them to be devoted to you. If you want them to be loyal to you, you need to be loyal to them. In fact, anything that you want them to be for you, you must be first for them. You have to be okay with that, or you're not a leader. In Coach Powell's book. Now, you might have a title, you might have a role, but unless you serve for a reason other than yourself, I can't call you a leader. Can't do it. You got to be willing to have reciprocal devotion. Remember, every commitment is an investment in the possibility of yourself and the possibility of others. And so, because it spreads. Once you make a commitment, then all of a sudden, boom, it's affecting your neighborhood. It's affecting your family. It's affecting your community. It's affecting whatever, because you're laser focused on it, and it becomes who you are. It becomes a part of what you bring to the table. So make sure you do it right. But number 6 is important. Don't overdo it. You need to be strong in embracing your current commitments before you start to look for new ones. And I mean, don't spread yourself too thin. That's what I mean when I say don't overdo it. I'm not saying don't commit, or don't commit completely. I'm saying don't commit to too much, to too many people, to too many opportunities, because you will spread yourself too thin, and you will dishonor yourself by not coming through with your commitment in a way that even you can appreciate, because you'll know, the first person who'll know that you're shortcutting the system, that you're cheating, is you. So don't overcommit. Number 7, practice discipline of habit. Anything that you commit to that you haven't already built a habit around, you need to make sure that first you build a habit around. And you say, I think I could commit to this. And when you've built that habit, then you know for a fact, I can commit to this. But if you commit before you build the habit, you might be overdoing it. You might be making a promise that you can't keep. Right? So discipline yourself to develop the habits that you have to develop so that you can make a strong commitment and make a strong promise on anything. If you don't, if you know if you have the right habits, if you don't have the right habits, nobody has to tell you. You know, I love that movie, The Right Stuff. It was a song too. You know, it's like do you know you have it or you don't. I can't tell you if you have the right stuff to honor your own the commitments that you should be making. But I can tell you when you don't, you're going to know first. You're going to feel it first. But that means you got to practice. That means you got to get back to your discipline. You got to get back to, you know, your system, your strategy, your process. You got to own that process so that you can feel comfortable making the commitment. Number 8, be winning. Surrender. What? I don't even know what I was talking about myself. Let me read the description here. Winning, surrender. A well-considered sacrifices allow the doors of new opportunities to open. What that means is literally you have to be willing in order to win, you have to be willing to surrender. You have to be willing to surrender something that you probably shouldn't be focused on anyway, so that you can get more focus and more energy towards the thing that you need to win in. So you got to let go. Sometimes you got to let go to move forward. Always follow your talent. You know where your natural gifts are. People have always told you where they are. People have always reflected positively back at you what you've done and what they've experienced from you that's been magical. So don't, act like you don't know who you are, what you bring to the table, because you do. And what you bring can be magical. So go ahead and make the commitment and go ahead and honor that achievement and go ahead and do those things that you need to do to keep yourself moving forward. Number 10, empower feedback. Always, always, always. This is one of my favorites because it's important that you're able to get reinforcements. You want as many endorsements, you want as many testimonials, you want as many recommendations as you can collect, but you can't collect them if you don't ask for it. You can't collect people's ideas or thoughts about how you've impacted them in any way, shape, or form if you don't tell them, listen, it's important to me that if I've said or done something that is valuable to you, you let me know what that is and how that value is measured or what that value means to you, because I need to have that understanding. And if you can put it in writing, great. If you can put it in a video, chat, or whatever that is, great. But if you don't get used to asking for feedback, then you can't empower others to teach you how they're receiving you. And then you can't make adjustments to what you're doing to make sure that those that receive you are receiving you well. And finally, leadership lesson number 10 or number 11 is to understand that there is freedom in order. Order is freedom. There's nothing wrong with discipline. There's nothing wrong with systems. There's nothing wrong with processes. What's wrong is when you get locked in to those systems and processes so deeply that you can't recognize a better way of doing something, or you refuse to open your mind up or your ideas up to new, more useful processes. You don't understand that real freedom happens after the discipline. Real creativity happens after the discipline. Innovation happens after the discipline. And so if you can put the right steps in place and learn them and master them, now you can get to the point where you can start to innovate. But if you try to innovate before you can actually discipline, it's going to be very hard to convince others to go along with you because you can't prove any mastery, number one. You can't prove any expertise. You can't show any credibility. You're just doing stuff. So figure out how to do stuff and do it so well that you gain. When people see you doing it, people understand that you're doing it, they give you the credibility. They give you the respect that you do. Let's go back to that respect topic. Has anybody ever looked that term respect up? You know what it really means? It blew me away, when I really figured out what it means. It means to adore someone or something and hold them in high regard. To literally adore something or someone and hold them in high regard. Now, I've done this before. I've told people, how many of you all respect everybody in a group, like I'm doing some training or whatever? Everybody raise their hand. I respect everybody. And then I teach them that definition. Respect means to adore and to hold another person in high regard. And then I ask the question again. Do you adore and hold everyone in high regard? And there's a lot less hands going in the air. Because if we're being honest, it is literally impossible for us to adore and hold everyone in high regard. Only those that we know. So I would ask you, and this is the commitment challenge, who do you need to commit to knowing so well that it becomes clear to them that you hold them in high regard and that you adore them? Because I promise you, if you pursue those relationships, the law of reciprocity will kick in, and those people will adore you and hold you in high regard as well. And who do you need to adore you? Commit to that. There's a song, I don't remember the name of the song, but I do remember the lyric. And it was a song by Diana Ross. And the lyric goes, I'm going to make you love me. Yes, I am. Think about that for a second. How many of you all know what you need to do to make the right people fall in love with you? It starts with committing to the process. Okay, guys, I've had fun. I had a great time. It's 3:47. God bless you. I'm out of here. Hope you guys have a great time too. If you have any thoughts about how we can improve the show or we can do more to help you grow, please do so. Please let me know in the chat anytime you want to communicate with me. All my information is right in front of you. So there's no excuses why you can't reach the coach, why you can't talk to the coach. I'm accessible. I'm easy. So make sure you reach out to me. Second thing I want to remind you of, if you haven't already, follow us, accept us, thumbs up, all the stuff that you need to do on all the social media pages and all that kind of stuff. Do so. Hashtag is 9-Step Guru. Hashtag 9-Step Guru. That's me. That's Coach Powell, Coach Powell Training Development. I love working with entrepreneurs, business leaders, professionals of all types who want to grow, who want to move themselves forward. I'm so passionate about it. I'm having a great time doing it. And I love to work with as many of you as I possibly can. God bless you. Have a great day. I know you're going to have a great weekend. Next week, we're going to be talking about independence. We're going to take a break from our series, and we're going to go deep into independence and how independence actually works. You guys are going to love the show next week. So have a great time, guys. I'm out. This is Coach Powell signing out, and I am gone. Bye-bye.